Hello, and welcome to this behind the scenes look at my latest animation, which is a fan animation inspired by the band Justice and their latest album HYPERDRAMA, which they released early last year. It's an amazing album. All of their music is wonderful, in my opinion, and I was truly inspired by what they produced, as well as the artwork, which was created by artist Thomas Juman. Here is some of that artwork right now. This was part of the inner sleeve artwork, showing this incredible kind of light transportation traveling sequence, and it's going through all of these wonderful kind of contraptions or these orbs, something, and it's like getting bigger and more exciting and flashier as it goes on, and until it eventually erupts in this beautiful shining star with this kind of flare and like these points of lights going everywhere. It's really gorgeous. When I first saw this piece of art, I was very, very excited by it. I'd never really seen anything like that to do with Justice before, and the kind of retro vibe it's got. If I feel like I'm holding like an old record sleeve, or I'm looking at an old magazine or something. It's really gorgeous work. And when I listened to the track One Night All Night, I just felt like this sequence of images fit right in with the I don't know how you put it in musical terms, but with the sequence of music that I put it to eventually in the animation. I just saw it happening. I thought it was a perfect fit, so I had to do something about it, and then of course I did further animation beyond that, which I will get into a bit later on. What I have here are several versions of the animation that I made. I would save a new version of it every couple of weeks to make sure I had lots of copies that I could go back to in the past. So here I've got this is the oldest version of the animation that I have. And here I have the final thing as a QuickTime movie file, so you can see how far you have to come. So let's just dive into this right now. I'm just going to pop this over here for the time being. So here's the very beginning of it. If I just hit play. Ooh, it's just lines. Oh my gosh. There's nothing going on there. Oh, wow, what was that? That was the old version of what I was going to do with the beam there. It was going to do a little loopy loop. I'll show that again in just a second. You can see how scruffy things are when I'm kind of trying to nail them down for the first time. So that's where all the junk is going to go. Woo! Let's look at this bit here. This is an old idea I had. This is going to fly up, and then it was going to kind of do a twisty around the main white beam, and it was going to go whoosh like it was going over your head, and we were twirling right around. It was going to go up here, and I believe the reason I didn't do that was that it just didn't fit in with the timing of the piece of music very well. It just went on a bit too long, so I had to make it snappier. But yeah, you can see this is how roughly I work things out to begin with. I've got the idea in my head, and I just need a messy, simple version to make sure I've got something to represent the timing of how I want to do everything. And then there. You can see here that I made a different decision as well at the beginning, where the orange lights at this point, right here, I was going to have them like explode outwards and like go further and further, but it didn't work. I tried it, and I didn't find that ultimately it was working when I was trying to do the final animation, so I kept it as they are, not static. They rotate around this central orb eventually, but I like them just where they are. But there's the very basic version of the animation from the beginning. I've got these lines around here to kind of represent the volume of what I want. Ultimately, I got rid of these lines, but it was really useful for me to map out the direction where this blue line on top. This is the blue line. This little thing over here, that's what I'm animating at this point. We're imagining that we are right down next to this white line. It's so small here, but it's so big in this version. We're watching the blue line. We're right there. We're like little ants traveling along it and going through the red hoop at that. Come back. I'm going through the red hoop. There we go. Whee! And round and around. I figured out this movement pretty early on. I tend to do things chronologically unless there's something I really need to... Unless there's something like really pressingly difficult that I just want to get on top of. I tend to do things chronologically these days. But yeah, so that's the first part of it in rough form. So here is a second version of the Justice animation. You can see it says Justice 2 in the corner there. And we've got a little bit more detail going on. I've started to put a bit of colour in here. But we're still missing out all the kind of white sparks at the beginning. So much detail is missing at the moment because I've not made it yet. Ooh, how exciting. All of that work to come. But you can see that something is starting to happen here. I'm starting to make the kind of orb structures here. Let's go and find them. So I've got, over here we've got different layers that are part of the animation. And here is our timeline where things happen. So each of these represents one frame. And we have, I don't know if you can see in the screen here, it says 24 FPS. That means 24 frames per second. So 24 of these little things represent one entire second of footage. How exciting for me. Let's look around here. If I turn off this, you can see, oh, that vanished, that little thing there. That vanished, that little light. How strange. These things are vanishing. So this is where everything is kept. And we try and keep things in a proper order so that things can be layered on top of each other nicely. I think this next orb coming up will be interesting. If I open up this little arrow, it's like a little folder which has all the different parts of this big old thing right here. Ooh, we're going to look at it. Ooh, we're going to have a good old looky look at this. What is happening here? This is something I'm very, very proud of in this animation because, you know, if you've been following me for a while, you'll understand I've never done anything like this. This is absolutely wild. Let's take a look over here at our reference image. It's not an enormous JPEG. There's a lot of artifacting happening in this image because, of course, it's not that huge. So what I had to do in order to create an animated equivalent was to just make things up. Just think to myself, how am I going to make this move? How do I want this to move? How is that going to be logistically possible in my design? And I had to let go of like worrying about particular details and stuff so that I could just get on and create something. So let's see if it becomes obvious that I'm grabbing anything here. Oh yeah, so these layers with all of these little little notches right here, these will represent the things that are moving really quickly. So if I turn this off, this vanishes. Oh my god, it's naked. How embarrassing. Let's put it back. Now this might look really intimidating at first, but what you have to understand is I think there's only 4 individual drawings that are just repeated. So if I click here and then I click here, it's the same drawing. We've just rotated the thing. So I only needed to create 4 drawings to create this effect of this thing spinning around in the middle. Yay! It was really hard work. It was really difficult, but the effect, in my opinion, is pretty great. It took a long time to color all of it really nicely, so the lighting kind of made sense and was seamless. It's a little bit wobbly on this version because this is an older version, but yeah, I had a really good time doing this. We can look at the lights on the top as well. Let's see. Ooh, yep, we've got this layer right here with all of these funny things. Like getting the perspective on the side of this was kind of wild for me. I don't think it really makes sense at the edge, but you know what? It doesn't matter. No one's paying me to do this. I'm gonna just do what I can and move on. You gotta let go. We've got these lights at the top here. So in order to get the effect that things were moving really nicely and the light was fading and trailing behind, I made sure not to just color the first light in the sequence that was zipping by, but also like have these kind of fading ones behind it. I think it looks really nice. And we've got these kind of reflective panels up here. So I'll back up just a bit. So as the kind of rectangular lights move, the panels above it reflect the light from the bottom here and at the top here. You see they are reflecting round and around. Round and around. Whee! You can see that I wanted it to look like the light was actually affecting the environment, as it were. So that was really satisfying to do. I really liked that. Back up a little bit. Have we got the blue? Have we got the blue? I think the blue is on a different thing. Blue spread. This is before I shoved this into the same folder as everything else. So there's our big blue thing. Eventually I put a nice texture on this. But yeah, I really liked figuring out the movement of this big blue blob to cover up our cog-like thing. I remember doing this very like painstakingly. I think I did this. Ooh, what time of year was it? It was when the Mad Max Fury Road sequel about Furiosa had come out. I remember strongly listening to a podcast about it while I was doing that. So yeah, there's that particular orb. If I click this, that makes it move back. Why does it make it? Oh, it's just sitting in place right now. What does that mean? This is a peg, and what a peg does is it allows you to move lots of layers at once in tandem. So we've got all these individual layers that make up this thing. These are the light things that light up in at one point. See, if we put the render view on, we can see how that changes there. That light effect is going to happen as it's rising. And so when you put things on a peg and then you move the peg around, everything on the peg shoves around. And if we turn the peg off, once again, it's just kind of staying in place. Fabulous stuff. It's simple little tricks, but they're really effective. It means I don't have to move everything individually, which would make me want to die. But yeah, much the rest of it is going to be the same as before. So let's move on to the next part of the sequence. Now in this version of events, you can see that I've put the texture on top of that blue blobby shape over the second orb there. And also we move into the third orb territory. Let's take a look at this. I loved animating this kind of laser line dance. Let's get nice and intimate with it. We get nice and close, find those layers. Where are we? We're on orb 3, baby. Open up. Open up. I want to see things. So, how many layers have we got going here? We've got oh, hate it when Two Moon does that. Excuse me. Oh my god. Why? I just don't know. I just don't know. Stay. You got to be decisive. You got to move swiftly with these things. As things light up, when I select these different layers, it represents, the thing that's lighting up. Let's see if we can find those lasers. How many layers are involved at the laser point here? So this is like the top glowy part, and that's the top blue part. So the laser has like multiple layers to it. So we've got this part, which is just the kind of blue coloured lines that are moving around. Let's kind of swirl them around a little bit. Ooh, very nice. And then this thing that I'm going to turn on now makes it glow nicely. So if I turn this off and we render it, so we can see how the actual image will look at this point with other effects happening. You can see these parts are kind of glowing nicely. You'll see that this isn't glowing at all, this blue shape. But if I turn the layer on, it's starting to glow nicely, and it's got these little kind of glowing points down here as well, so that it looks similar to the original sketch. I really was so proud of how I managed to make this look like the original sketch. Obviously there are details that are basically missing. There's a lot more detail happening in the original illustration, but I'm still pleased with how this looks. This nice green, deep green block with the glowing edge, figuring out how to do that was just delicious. So it's just like a nice gradient square, and I've put this glowing blue edge on it at a kind of low transparency, so that when you render it, it's nice and light, and it makes like the light is kind of slightly shimmering off the edge of it. It's giving a very subtle glow to it, which you can kind of see even from here in the original design. It just makes it look mwah! It's got a certain something that I love. I tried my best with the rendering. I really do like it. I quite like how this effect looks against this red. It's really nice. You can also see a nice grain effect that I've put into this animation. This is straight up from Toon Boom Harmony. It's not another program whatsoever. It's just a very, very light grain filter. I am worried that it kind of got washed out in the final edit because I adjusted the colors somewhat, but it looks really nice here, at least. Hooray, it looks nice here. Whatever. If I play this here, you can see, whoa, it zips out of frame so quickly. If I play this, you can see like the light reflections happening over and over. Very nice, very nice. Moving, very lovely. Yeah, I had a good time doing that like light reflection animation. They're just little paint blobs. All of that is just little paint blobs moving back and forth. They're on this side as well. You can see them drifting around. It's so fun. I love kind of animating water and that. So yeah, that's that little part. Again, if I turn off all these things, we can eventually make this all kind of naked. We've got stuff on the top. Doop-a-doop-a-doo. It's all gonna vanish away. All these kind of glowy effects. There were a lot of glowy effects in this animation, but I do love a glowy effect. Oh my god, you're not meant to see this. I wonder if this is ruining the animation for anybody. Ooh, it's all vanishing. Nearly all gone. Woo! I think all that's left now is the original sketch. So yeah, that's that little part ready to go. Oh, and then after that, let me pop it all back on. Whee! How elegant. Once it goes past this sequence, then it goes into this completely blank thing. What's that going to be? What's this? Oh my god. I'm like figuring out the timing of the fourth orb and then the eye kind of popping open at the end there. That was so satisfying. Getting the timing on the eye just right when I got to like draw it out properly was incredibly satisfying, because that part of the music is so boom, boom, boom. It's so cool. And then I was like just having this kind of placeholder cross for the big light later. Where is it? There it is. Wow. That's going to be a beautiful thing one day, but not yet. Not yet. Just a point of interest here. We've got a version I saved of the animation where nothing is showing up. Everything's just vanished for some reason. I don't know, maybe the file got corrupted. Scary. You see how all these things are crossed out? It's because it can't access the original saved assets for whatever reason. How terrifying! I had a version of this which just died at some point, I guess. I don't remember that, so I must have been fine for a while and moved on from this version before it got corrupted or something. But yeah, you can't see anything at all. This is why you save multiple versions of your work. How awful! What an awful thing! Okay, moving on. Now we're getting to the exciting stuff with the hands. And I can show you the rough idea, or a rough version of the hands on Gaspar's side of things, at least. But unfortunately, Xavier's rough hand animation seems to have completely vanished. I've got his layer here, and it's on, but nothing's happening. It's not hidden at all. I'm trying to select. Nothing is happening. So this is another corrupted file. Again, you got to save regularly. I don't know what happened, but here you can at least see some of Gaspar's rough hand animation that I did. Very exciting to do these hand bits because I am self-conscious about drawing hands. Many artists are. And I thought it would be just good practice to do a shot like this and to really get into it. I do actually have a video of the rougher hand animation, including Xavier's hands, that are included in the shot as well. So I will make sure that plays right now. But if I go over here, you will see what will eventually be the final hands. So I've turned that on. The rough hand animation is going to play at the same time. Oh my gosh. So I've turned the cleaned line art layers on, at least, for Gaspar. Xavier's hands are just gone. They're simply gone. Even these ones, they are simply gone. Nowhere to be found. Xavier, what is this? Is this the Escapades live tour that we were hoping for? Maybe it is. But I think he's missing you. This is sad. He's just not here. I don't know where his hands have gone. Again, make sure you save multiple versions of your work because, wow, how terrifying. That's sad. Okay, so here we have a version of events where Xavier is in fact involved. Thank goodness. So we've cleaned up a lot of the line work here now for something that I'm pretty satisfied with. Some of the hand movements are different here. The timing is a little different to how it was in the end. I tightened it up later on, but things are much as they're going to be. So several things. That button sequence did take a while to get right. Let's look at those buttons right now. Here we are on the button layer. Ooh la la. Let's unlock it so we can get in the good stuff. Let's do that so we can tell what layer we're on. So all of these, basically, to do this animated button sequence, I kind of just animated a few circles getting smaller and smaller. I can't find that layer, but just trust me, there were circles getting smaller and smaller, and then I traced these squares on top of it. This is not done with 3D animation at all. I don't know fucking anything about 3D animation. So I just did it by hand, and I drew basically half of everything, and then I copied it and flipped it on the other side. So that's the effect you get. I didn't animate all of the buttons, I just animated half of the buttons. And if we take a look here, you can see you get all these frames that go all the way to the top, and then they start again. So again, we've got repeating frames that go and go and go. And as we go further back, we go to the buttons further away behind the foreground buttons. So everything makes sense. Everything is in its right place. Let's get even closer to these things, why don't we? Woo! What do we have here? Let's start pulling them around. Oh my god, Imogen, you can't do that. Ah! It's all just lines. It's all just lines and squares. Oh my god. Ah! You can't do this. If I just make it so that I touch the line art layer, woo, 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 it's just lines, baby. It's just lines. Lines are all you need. Oh my word. Go back to where you came from. Let's see, can we render this just briefly? There we go. So that's how it looked at the time. It looked a little different when I finished it up. But yeah, I really enjoyed using these gradient effects. Just a simple circular gradient effect on all these buttons. I think it looks swell. Very proud with how that looks. Again, never done anything like this before, but I was very inspired by the front cover of the HYPERDRAMA HYPERDRAMA issue that was made specially. It had this beautiful kind of glass-looking piano structure, and I thought I really want to pay homage to that with this. I remember as I was drawing this and rendering it, and I made it look like this, and I was really, really happy, and then I thought, oh god, but the piano is like see-through and stuff, and you can see it, like it's transparent, you can see stuff through it. I need to make the buttons see-through. I need to make sure you can see like the edges of the buttons through the other buttons, and I tried doing that for about 3 hours, and then I stopped because that was insane. And I was like, you need to move on. It doesn't matter at all. Just do something else. Also, before I designed this sequence as it is, I was thinking of having the two of them pressing, you know, any old thing. I thought, what if I looked at some DJ decks and animated those scrolling away? Yeah, I could have all sorts of dials and widgets and buttons and things for them to touch that would be scrolling away. Yeah. And then I thought, no, I'm not going to do that. That's so crazy. That would have been horrible. Let's just keep it simple. Let's just keep it nice and simple. No need to go crazy. So yeah, this is the simple version of events. It could have been a lot worse. I'm really pleased with this sequence especially. It goes on, I think, for longer than anything else. I'm very pleased with the way the sleeves emerge. You'll see that they're not wearing sleeves to begin with. And then suddenly, magically, they are. Let's just turn this down. Wow, no sleeves, everything's regular. Oh my god, why are they wearing sleeves? What happened? Let's look at that again. I'm so fucking pleased with it. And I wanted to talk about that just briefly. Imogen, why did you make this decision? Why didn't you put them in suits the entire time? Well, I was designing the animation, the sequence, and I was drawing them without their sleeves on, just to get kind of the feel of everything. And I find forearms and wrists and hands very attractive. A lot of women do. The wrist especially is very attractive. It's like got these veins and tendons, the way it arches, the wrinkles, everything is just, it's very expressive and it's lovely. It's so lovely. So I was having the time of my life designing all of this, like the whole sequence. And then I remembered that in this particular album cycle, they wear suits that have sleeves, of course. And I thought, oh god damn it, I'm going to be obscuring all of this sexy wrist action. This is ridiculous. I can't have this. What am I going to do? A real moment of distress for me. And so I thought, is there a way I could just have them wearing the suits some of the time, but not all of the time? So ultimately I decided to let their arms be naked to begin with and then put the suits on later. Like I love it. I'm sorry. I'm so proud of this. It's like a little magic trick. They just appear. Haha. I was so pleased with the timing of that. And it symbolizes the passage of time. That's what it symbolizes. Before and after HYPERDRAMA. Ha 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 ha. Yes, that's what it is. This is not horniness against adversity. No, this is an artistic choice that makes sense. Anyway, I had a great time with this shot. I'm sure you can tell. It goes on a bit, but I do like it. So obviously I was looking at the actual hyperdrama photo shoot for the album itself, and you got that photo of Xavier breathing out smoke or vapor, and it's a hard profile shot, and that's what this idea was based off of. And the shot was going to be very kind of cool and emotionally distant and ambiguous. Yeah. And then Neverender came out, and there is a shot which is strikingly similar to the one that I have here, in that it just has Xavier, breathing out the steam. And that's not because I'm psychic, it's because we're drawing from the same source material here. So when that video came out, I thought, I need to change some stuff around, because otherwise, if I keep it like this, it's just gonna look like I'm ripping off that video, and I don't want that. So I will return to that later. So the next part I animated after I did the initial hand section was the implied kiss, and you can see that this looks a lot different. I mean, not just in terms of how rough it is, but in terms of the actual facial expressions. They're slightly different from how it ended up in the final thing. Xavier's smile changed a lot. He's got a very natural, charming smile, and I did want to get it right, and I didn't feel happy with it for a long time. His hair is all scruffy in this, and he's got a bit more of a scruff going on the face as well. I just hadn't decided what we were going to go with, but I was pretty happy with the way I drew Gaspard from the beginning. He's got a really amazing profile. He's really striking. And I had fun designing the way that Gaspard's moustache would move. I put all these lines on top of it to give it some curvature, and I was really satisfied with that. It took an eon to get the angle of their faces right. For ages, it just didn't look like their eyesight was really lining up, and so I had to shove around the proportions of Gaspard's head a lot to make sure they looked like they were actually looking at each other and not past each other. I think it worked out in the end. I think it looks really good in the final product. But yeah, this took a while to figure out. This is what I was doing in November. I'm very satisfied with how it ended up ultimately, though. There were a lot of layers involved in their faces. So we will get to that in a bit. And obviously I had to animate their hair as well. This was before I animated their hair. I really loved the idea of, just in any video, two people's lips coming apart and there being a little point of light between them. I thought that would be really cool. Starting to put some finer lines in on Xavier and on his hair, but we've got a rough hair guide for Xavier here. His hair took a while to animate. Both of their hair took a long while to animate. You can see the beginnings of Gaspard's lovely curls bouncing around at the end there. I had such a good time animating Gaspard's hair. It's so good. I have curly hair too, and I love to honor curly hair. I like to make it so much more bouncy than it even needs to be. Like, curly hair does not move like that unless you've got an enormous amount of it, like huge tendrils. It doesn't really move like that otherwise. But I wanted to make it move. I wanted to make it bounce and sway. I hope I've got another version where there's more of that. Yeah, really fun. Everything is coming together. You can see the kind of different layers flickering together, the rougher versions and kind of more refined versions starting to come on top as I get more confident about where I want things to be. Here we've got a little bit more detail going on. You can also see I animated Gaspard's ear with an earring because I thought he had one for a second, but then I realized I'd mixed it up and it's actually Xavier who has an earring. So look, there's something that I got rid of eventually. I think Gaspard has had pierced ears in the past, but I don't know if he does right now. Whatever. It's not important. You can take earrings out. He took earrings out for this animation, okay? You can see I'm really getting into the curls here. Oh my god, did I have a great time. I have already said this. I'm saying it again. I loved animating Gaspard's hair. It was wonderful. I'm going to talk a little bit more about my creative decisions in this shot. When you first see the shot, it's a close-up of their lips. It is kind of what are they doing? What's going on? Oh my god, this is spicy. And then it kind of, in my opinion, cools off pretty quickly. It was important to me that when they're looking at each other, when Gaspar is just looking at Xavier with his eyes closed, when they are looking at each other, that it was not with burning lust. I didn't want it to be sweaty. I didn't want it to be horny. I thought it was kind of spicy enough to begin with. I wanted them to look at each other with like familiarity and fondness and affection, yes, but with humor and understanding. Those were the things that I wanted to like come across. If I had wanted it to be like filthy, I would have made other choices. Like the way that they looked at each other would have been a lot different, and it would have just been a lot more like shiny and sweaty and blushy and all of those things. I wasn't, that was never gonna happen. Like that would have been way too much. If people read it as platonic, romantic, sexual, just funny, it's all good. I remember when I showed this to Gaspar and Xavier at the meet and greet in London a few days ago, this part happened. It was playing on my phone while Xavier was speaking to me, and Gaspar pointed at it and laughed. To be fair, I don't know if he was laughing at this implied kiss, you know, generally, or if he was laughing at when he blows in Xavier's face. That might be it. I don't know. I did want that to be funny. What I really wanted to do was kind of subvert what we've seen in the Hyperdrama promo photo and in Neverender, because Xavier looks so cool, so fucking cool, blowing out all that smoke, and I really wanted this moment where Gaspar is just like, hey, hey, concentrate, like it just blowing it back in his face. I thought it would be really nice to make this moment just really light and playful and sweet and understanding, instead of like really heavy in any kind of fashion. I thought that this would be a lot nicer. So there it is. On the subject of Gaspar's hair, like, I really did go crazy because I did not have to animate each curl individually, like make them all different, but I so wanted to. I so wanted to. And I was like, yes, they will all move and bounce and have their own timing. Yes, they will all have their own character. Perfect. And there was this voice in my mind being like, Imogen, you do not have time for this. You have to move on. I should also say that I wanted to add more silver into Xavier's hair, but animating individual strands of hair is beyond the pale, and I thought, Imogen, you gotta let go. You gotta let go. It looks fine. Don't worry about it. Don't think about it. Again, I really like honouring how people actually fucking look. And he's got lots of salt and pepper. While we're here, let's turn off a few layers so we can see how many things are involved at this point. There's an ear, there's his face, there's his neck. Oh wait, I got rid of him. There's his neck. And then you got Xavier's hair, and then we got his rough hair. There we go. We got his rough hair working there. You can see it kind of flittering about. How silly. That brown blob that appears, that's just a little thing that kind of fills up a gap of Gaspar's hair at certain points behind his shoulder, I think, behind somewhere. Oh my god, how terrifying. You can see all the things involved. It's like little paper cutouts. Like, how is this all going to work? And you can get more granular if you want to, or you can animate things all on the same layer if you wanted to, like an entire character on the same layer. It really depends on your comfort level. Like, some people might want to animate the hair on the same layer as the head, or something. But I like to keep hair and head separate because hair has such a life of its own, at least when I'm in charge. Oh my goodness, what are all those weird shapes moving around on their face? What those are the highlight and shadow effects. They are not rendered in this immediate playback in Harmony. They're just represented by this kind of block of color, which has a kind of blending process. So that color affects the colors underneath of their faces and their hair and their clothes and everything. And that's the shadow layer and the highlight layer. So let's go and look at that for a second. And in this folder, which I have titled Da Boys, here we are in Da Boys folder. Let's find a highlight layer. Let's find Gaspard's highlight layer. I think this is it. Is this it? Yes, it is. It's this pink thing. So this pink effect goes over his face. Let's go into the render view just briefly, if we can, if we're allowed. Toon Boom Harmony, my kingdom for a render layer. There we go. So I have turned the highlight off for a second. This is an early version, so it's not quite accurate with the colors and everything. So his face is a little less vibrant than it will be. Let's turn it on and see the difference. Oh, you can see the difference. There you go. So it really looks like the light that's between them is kind of shining and illuminating their faces nicer than it would be if it didn't have that highlight effect on top of it. Let's try turning off the shadow layer on his face and his hair. Can we do it on his hair as well? There's his hair layer and the hair's shadow layer. So let's do that. Oh, look at that. It's not quite as vibrant. It's kind of a more plain color. So if you have a nice blending color on top, that can give it a bit more of a zingy look. Ooh, oh, that's so nice. I like how it's kind of taking the outline of the curls and making it nearly purple, kind of getting close to maroon here. It's really nice. It works. I like it. I like it a lot. So if we go here, I've got some initial drawings that I did to plan out the kind of implied kiss part of the animation. So let's just turn that on. So I drew some pictures in Photoshop to begin with. That's why they're just in these little squares. And they're not timed out. They're just like ideas. So I had that idea from the beginning. It was going to be the kiss on the cross. It looks like my idea was that it was going to be all kind of fiery or something, but I liked how it ended up being. I like the steam very much. And then what is this? This is somebody's hand coming up to grasp this cross, and then it was going to turn to the side, and we see the mouths from this angle. It's like dead on profile here. They're kissing either side of the cross like they did way back when, and we see them parting ways here. So far more like what they actually used to do many years ago. And this was the original plan for the shot, right? So the part that I animated after the implied kiss was the bit with the rose. We went backwards. I had saved it for later. I wasn't feeling bold enough to do the rose bit because I knew it would be complicated. Now at first, this shot was just going to be Gaspard reaching out and taking the rose, like taking it by the stem and plucking it or something. And I was like, yeah, that could go to the beat and that would be really assertive and sexy in a way. Sure. And then it would kind of snap into the next shot. And I was approaching animating that, and I thought, that's kind of aggro, actually. I don't know if I want either of the boys getting so violent in this. That I think the slamming of the buttons is violent enough. We don't need that. I don't want any flowers getting hurt. What if he just held the rose? What if he just held it really gently? Wouldn't that be nice? What if he cupped it? One thing kind of led to another, because Xavier's hand wasn't involved at first. And then I thought, why? Like, get it involved. Come on, let's go. So originally his hand was going to kind of press the buttons and then flick away. And then I decided maybe he can like run his thumb along the edge of the rose. Maybe that would be good, and he can drift up like out of the screen. And then I thought, no, I want it to hang around. I want both hands in the frame at the same time when it ends. I think that would be good. I think his hand would like zip out far too quickly. And I think it does zip out far too quickly in this. It still might have looked nice, but I wanted it to be better than that. But I wanted it to linger a little bit longer. I think that the end product, it's my one regret. I think that the rose like flits away far too quickly, but I couldn't figure out a way to let it linger a little longer because of the pacing of the track. I'm really pleased with it. I'm really pleased with how it looks, at least. My goodness, is that pretty. Just want to take a moment to say that one of the things I'm really pleased with in this animation was the way I animated Xavier's gold bracelet. He has a few trinkets and he likes wearing a nice gold chain bracelet most of the time, from what I can tell. And at first, I'm sure you can understand, I thought to myself, how the fuck am I going to animate a chain bracelet? I'd rather die. I was like, am I gonna have to animate these individual loops? Oh god, I'd rather end it all. So how did I do this? Well, it's a little bit more obvious if I make this nice and big. Here we are. We're looking right into the bracelet, right into the abyss. Where is he? It's all here. It's all here in this layer. So that's his sleeve, and here we are in the overlay. So yeah, it's just a nice golden kind of sausage shape. I'm going to separate it as the outline of it, and this is the color bit which I colored in, so it's just like a golden sausagey shape all together. And then we've got all of these marks on the overlay layer which signify the kind of highlights, the light shining off the bracelet, and then just a little dark smudge representing the hole that all the chains have, like it's just the hole in the chain. That's it. It's just some smudgy marks that represent the impressionism. That's what it is. I was so relieved when I realized that I could like simplify the look of the bracelet without having to draw actual like links going in and out of each other. That's all it is. If we kind of move it around, you can see it. Yep, that's it. It's just golden sausage links, and then those are kind of little shiny bits on top. I'm really chuffed with how it looks. I think it looks fucking great for what it is. I really like the bit where he slams his hand down at the beginning and the bracelet kind of just hangs out in the air for a moment afterwards. I really like that. I like the weight implied there. Here it comes, here it comes, here it comes. Yeah. Love it. Hey guys, do you know what this is? This is me trying to figure out where their feet have to go on this grid. Now, this was one of the more ambitious shots. I mean, they were all ambitious, but this is one of the more intimidating shots for me because of the sweeping perspective change. So, first of all, when I was planning the shot originally, I wanted it to be underneath the ground, underneath the floor the entire time, with following their footsteps, but I just could not get the grid to behave initially. And I drew this grid. Again, I don't know how to use 3D software. I just took some lines and started wiggling them around in a desperate hope that they would look like they would make sense when I was done with them. I wanted to start with the shot of Gaspar's feet and then introduce Xavier's feet as the track progressed. So here I'm trying to plot out where those feet are going to land in the frame, so that there is like space for both of them. Doesn't it look stupid? Yep. these things always start out looking really stupid. You see those little stars that are popping on the screen? That goes along with the beat of the music. So that was my guide for when the feet need to hit the floor. Like, yeah. And you can see me trying to roughly draw the feet, like, towards the end there. Let's start turning on some other layers and really see what happens. So here we have, like, just a tiny bit more of me trying to figure out where Gaspard's feet are gonna land. Let's see if we can get more of Xavier in here. Here we go. There's Xavier's legs. I was pretty much like, yeah, okay. They'll go like this, I think. That's pretty accurate to how it ends up looking at the end. I really like the swoop of his trousers around here. Do we have another layer for Gaspard? Do we have another thing? What does that look like? Okay, so we're starting to get more of Gaspard in there. I spent a long time trying to differentiate Gaspard's trousers from Xavier's, just in terms of the shape. I did want them to have a different kind of feel to them. So Gaspard's trousers are kind of wider when I finish animating them. But yeah, you got to figure all these things out. You gotta learn as you go. Oh, also drawing shoes from different fucking angles is, whoo, it's difficult. That was the point in the animation where I was using Pinterest a lot. I was looking at all these very useful diagrams and infographics of drawing lovely shoes at different angles from below. Why would you ever need to draw someone's shoe from below? Well, in this instance, it was really crucial. So that was really, really helpful. Thank you, Pinterest. Let's all thank Pinterest together. And here we have the more cleaned up version of Gaspard's trousers, although I do think I changed it a little bit beyond this point. I hadn't quite figured out what I was going to do at the end of the sequence there. His foot just kind of starts melting a bit. So there was still stuff to decide. But I was pretty pleased with this. I was so scared of doing this shot. I was more intimidated by this shot than any other shot that I had planned in the sequence. But it took me less time, significantly less time than I thought it would, once I figured out what I was doing. I did this over the Christmas break, this entire walking shot. I was animating it during New Year's Eve like a loser. But I was really pleased with it. I thought, yeah, I've got to get this done. I've got to do this. Yeah. I like the tension in this shot in terms of like the dynamic. Is Gaspard pursuing Xavier or is Xavier leading Gaspard? Who knows? How do you feel? I like that it's kind of ambiguous. The kind of passive or more assertive vibe from either of them. It's fun. It's fun to play with these things. Oh, also before I forget, I wanted to include something that I do love to see when Gaspard wears it, and it's this Yes belt. Yes, being a logo design for the band by Roger Dean. Gaspard has a plethora of belt buckles that he wears, and I love Roger Dean so much. I love the kind of swirly shape involved in this logo. When I look at Roger Dean's work, you know, I actually just take some time. I put time aside. I go, oh, this is going to be great. And I just sit there and look at it. I just love looking at that stuff. So I included that in this. It might move a little bit too quickly. It might not be so obvious, but it's there. There's the Yes belt. I was pleased with that. We are finally approaching the last shot that I animated, and it's right here. It's this end of the Thomas Newman sequence. I saved it for the end. I was really pleased with how this turned out. Again, I was originally going to send these orange lights shooting everywhere to the side, but I quite like how they worked out here. Yeah, I think they look really nice. And this star was the very last thing that I figured out how to render properly. Can we see it? Can we see it, please? Please and thank you. There we go. Ooh, look at that lovely grain. I do think the grain was kind of lost a bit in the export, but never mind. Figuring out how to render this was so satisfying. It's obviously not a dead-on match to the original illustration, but guys, I did my best, and I just wanted to get this finished. There's a nice blur effect on this outer circle. You can see it's quite a sharp edge here. So here's the circle itself. We're on the circles layer. If we back up just a little bit, we can see that it's like a hard circle in our non-rendered view. If I hit the render button, we can see it's got that lovely blur to it. I quite like that a lot. I guess it's not that blurred in the actual illustration. I think I left it quite blurry actually, compared to how it looks in the illustration. But you know what? I like it. I like it a lot. I think it looks really nice. It doesn't have to be a dead-on match. When animating this illustration, it's nice to think of it the same as you might think of adapting a book to a movie. Some things are just going to work better, easier as an illustration. Some things are going to be different and better and easier to create as an animation. So you could just got to bear that in mind as you go. But yeah, I was really pleased with how this bit worked out. I think it looks really nice. Oh yeah, and the rushing of that, I really like that. It always tricks my eye. It always feels really 3D at this point. Like the most 3D thing to me is keeping my eye on that star and then watching the pod that they're flying in go zipping underneath. That's what that's meant to be, by the way. This thing down here is meant to be their like little flight pod. I didn't want to animate anything from inside the pod, obviously, because I thought, first of all, that would be too similar to Neverender, where you see that shot inside. But I also didn't want to make it like too literal. I want that pod to be a sacred space that you don't go into. I didn't want that happening. Oh yeah, this is on Orb 4. Here we go. So here we've got the different layers of all of this lot. In Orb 4, all of this, including the eye, is Orb 4. There's the glow effect that goes over the top of the orange lights that are reflected on the top of the... So there's like... We've got these kind of orange smudgies, which represent these... But then we want a little bit of a glow on top of it. So we add that glow and ba-boom, there it is. I didn't neaten up this at all. These are just simple line strokes. I was like, I don't have time to make this neat. It doesn't matter. Just slam it in. Just hurry up. You've got a limited amount of time. So get this fucking done. I did not neaten this up at all. Look at the little wriggly caterpillars. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Some things just don't matter. Oh my god, that is no good. Don't look! It's all okay. It doesn't matter. Yeah. So I think that's just about the entire sequence. Finished, done and dusted. Oh my gosh. And then of course I had to figure out how to loop the Thomas Newman bit. Without the section with the boys. And the reason I decided, I mean, I thought it would look great if we looped the Thomas Newman bit. Oh wait, I didn't talk about this shit. Where is that? Here we are. Do, the snappy bit here. Oh god, it's really chugging here. Where are we? So... If we look at this, you will see that we've got the guts of the cross being lit up every time there's a kind of light strike behind the cross. It lights up what is inside the cross, which is all the guts. Now, if I turn things off properly, I might be able to find... Let's turn on the white layer. Ooh, that's blinding. Okay, I can't figure out how to reveal it any other way without having a headache. So if I just select this, oh my word, what is that? I recreated the line art of one of the previous versions of the cross's guts that Thomas Juman designed. He did a couple of designs for the cross. This was one that wasn't used, but I wanted to give it its day in the spotlight. So I recreated the line art. I just took a photo from the Rockyrama. I placed it under my my layer here, and I traced it. I just straight up traced it. And with that tracing, I had a guide for how the guts would be like lit up. So if I deselect that, you can see that particular parts of the guts are lit up by the light striking from behind. This was really satisfying. It was kind of brainless to do this compared to all the other thinking I had to do, but it was very satisfying in that way. It was kind of just some mindless stuff that I could just easily knock out after all the other difficult challenges I did. Oh, it's so nice to look at this, isn't it? He really did design some really cool stuff. Easy. I was really satisfied with how the cross looks when it gets kissed, and then it goes all like really hot. Ooh, it's so hot, it's red like a poker. Oh my gosh, ow. It looks painful. I quite like it. I really like how I managed to render the actual cross itself here. It's like just got some simple textures on it that were on Toon Boom already. Nothing elaborate. I'm really pleased with it. Very nice. And then it goes into the end. Lovely. Whee! So thank you so much for joining me on this special little journey behind the scenes. I don't tend to show off the back end of my animation because I'm worried it's gonna like ruin the experience for people, like it's gonna ruin an animation. But I really wanted to demonstrate that I did do this. I made this thing with my hands. I did it. And I didn't use AI. And I do get bothered by the idea that because I did a good job, it couldn't have been me. I do get kind of wound up about it, thinking that because it looks the way it does, I must have cheated somehow. And I didn't. A computer didn't do this for me. I did it. And you can do so many amazing things. You have to put in the time, but it's worth it, you know? I did this for free, you know? And I'm so proud of it. I'm so pleased with it. A few days ago, I was teaching my students. I had a lesson with my students, and I showed this off to them. They'd seen previous parts when they were really, really rough. I'd shown bits off, and I was finally ready to show off my finished product. And they were so happy to watch it. They were like really enthusiastic, and they cheered and clapped at the end. And I was so happy. I've never heard anybody react to my work like live like that before. And when I had my little premiere for the video, and there were like maybe 20 people tops in the chat, and we were all kind of going wee as it was playing. It was just the most fun. I've never had a little moment like that where it was live and people were reacting along with me. It made my heart burst. I was just so happy. Well, I want to thank a bunch of people. I want to thank my friends and my family for putting up with me for the best part of a year while I yammered on about this and what I was doing, for trusting me that I knew what I was doing also, because I was like, I'm making a big animation that I can't monetize, and it's because I desperately want something. I desperately want to be making animations for French house musicians. And my friends and family were like, okay, keep plowing your furrow, you strange little lady. I think it paid off, and I want to thank them for their patience. I also want to thank the legendary Jose Lobo for getting this in front of people's eyes. He is a star of a person, And, you know, I don't know if this would have reached the band and the team if it weren't for him. Algorithms are cruel mistresses, and artists on the internet are entirely at the mercy of any kind strangers deciding to share their work around. Like, it's entirely because of you people that anyone is seeing this. It's entirely because of you. So thank you so much to everybody who has shared it, who has retweeted it, anything. It makes a difference. It really does make a difference. And who knows, maybe something like that could change my life. It would be amazing. Thank you so much.